Hello, and welcome to English Avenue Podcast.
Your cozy place to learn easy English through real, everyday conversations. I'm Anna.
And I'm Jake, and this is the kind of place where you can relax, listen slowly, pick up natural English, and leave the episode feeling a little lighter.
Yes, a little lighter. And honestly, that feels very right for today's topic.
Oh, very right, because today we are talking about one of the most important emotional support systems of modern life.
Coffee.
Ah, coffee. Beautiful, loyal, warm, sometimes stronger than our willpower.
Honestly, yes. Some people drink coffee because they enjoy it.
And some people drink coffee because without it, they should not be allowed to speak to anyone.
Oh, wow, we started strong today.
We did, but honestly tell me, that is real, right?
No, it is very real. There are people who look awake in the morning, but nothing inside has actually started yet.
Exactly. The body is there, the face is there, but the soul still buffering.
Yes, still buffering is the perfect phrase.
So today's episode is all about this question. Why do we love coffee so much?
Because when you really think about it, coffee is not just a drink, right?
Right. It is a routine, a comfort, a little pause, a survival tool, a social plan, a personality trait for some people.
Yes, for some people, coffee is not a beverage. It is a lifestyle with a mug.
A very serious lifestyle, protected at all costs.
So in this episode, we are going to talk about why coffee feels like more than just coffee, why it can feel comforting, why coffee shops feel so special, why some of us are maybe a little too dependent on it.
Maybe?
Fine, a lot too dependent on it.
Thank you.
And we are also going to explore why coffee is often tied to memory, mood, routine, and even identity.
Yes, because this is one of those small everyday things that can say a lot about the way we live.
And as always, while we talk, you will also hear useful English words and natural expressions in context.
Right. This is a B1 to B2 level episode, so do not worry if you do not understand every single word the first time.
Yes, just relax and enjoy the conversation. You do not need to catch everything. Listen for the feeling. Listen for the ideas, and let the English come to you naturally.
And later in the episode, we will also have a calm little word tour, where we go back through some of the most useful vocabulary and phrases from today.
So, if you have ever said, "Please do not talk to me before my first coffee,"
or if you have ever spent too much money in a cafe just to sit there in peace for 1 hour,
or if the smell of coffee alone can make your whole mood softer,
then yes, this episode is for you.
And actually, tell us in the comments, what kind of coffee person are you?
Simple coffee? Fancy coffee? Iced coffee in every season? Sweet latte that tastes like dessert? Or tea person secretly listening to this episode for no reason?
Now, that is a good question.
It really is. We want to know.
And if you enjoy learning English with us through calm, natural, everyday conversations, do not forget to like this episode, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves coffee a little too much.
Or someone who says, I can quit coffee anytime, while making cup number 4.
Jake.
What? We all know a person like that.
No, you're not wrong. And honestly, that's what makes coffee so interesting.
Yes. People get surprisingly attached to it.
You know, Jake, I really think coffee is one of those things that looks small from the outside, but feels much bigger in real life.
Yes, that is such a true way to start. Because when people say they love coffee, they're usually not only talking about the taste.
Right. They're talking about the feeling around it.
Yes, the moment, the pause, the comfort of it.
And I think that is why coffee becomes a ritual for so many people.
Yes, not just a habit, but a ritual. Something you return to in a very personal way.
Exactly. The same mug, the same smell, the same corner of the kitchen, the same little silence before the day begins.
That is so real. Some people do not even realize how attached they are until they cannot have it one morning.
Yes, then suddenly the whole day feels wrong.
Not wrong, spiritually broken.
Jake.
I'm serious.
No, but really, there is something very comforting about coffee.
Comforting in a quiet way. It does not need to be exciting. It just makes life feel a little softer.
Yes, and I think there's also a kind of familiarity in it.
Familiarity?
Yes, that feeling of knowing something so well that it starts to feel safe, trusted, and almost part of you.
That is true. And when life feels rushed or messy, one familiar little thing can calm you down more than people realize.
Exactly.
And speaking of survival, can we talk about the morning version of people before coffee?
Oh, wow, yes, that person is fragile.
Very fragile.
Such a relatable thing, though. You wake up, you're technically alive, but not fully available.
Exactly. You are physically present, but mentally you're still somewhere between the bed and the kitchen.
Yes, not fully back to the world yet.
And then, after the first few sips, the caffeine starts to kick in.
Yes, that moment when it actually begins to work. Your brain feels clearer, your mood starts to come back, you stop looking at the wall like it personally offended you.
That is painfully accurate.
Because before coffee, even simple things feel harder than they should.
Like replying to, "Good morning."
Yes, you are like, is it?
Exactly.
And that is where dependence comes in, right? Not in some huge dramatic way, just in the very human way of, oh, my body really notices when this is missing.
That is a good way to say it. People do not always want to call it dependence, but they know the feeling.
The headache, the low energy, the weird sadness, the feeling that you're somehow behind and the day hasn't even started properly yet.
I skipped coffee once because I was running late, and by mid-morning I was irritated by everything. The light was too bright, the room was too warm, someone near me sounded too cheerful.
Too cheerful is so funny.
It was offensive at the time.
See, that is what coffee does. It quietly protects other people from us.
It really does. And honestly, I think part of the comfort starts even before the first sip.
Yes. Just making it already changes the mood a little.
Exactly.
And that is why I think one of the biggest reasons people love coffee is the routine around it.
Oof, the whole process.
Boiling the water, hearing the machine, opening the jar, pouring it into your favorite mug, that first smell rising before the first sip.
Even that description is calming.
Because it is. It feels soothing.
Yes, that word fits so well. Soothing is not dramatic happiness. It is more like your system settling down a little.
Exactly. And I think people need that more than they realize. Tiny little moments that tell the body, you can relax for a second.
Wow, coffee is now emotional support and nervous system care.
It really is doing a lot for society.
Honestly, yes.
And there is something about holding a warm cup with both hands that feels almost childlike in a good way.
That is true. It makes you feel protected somehow.
Yes. And then the first sip comes, and for 1 second, everything slows down.
I think that is why people get so attached to their coffee moments. The coffee matters, yes, but the pause matters too.
Sometimes the pause matters even more.
And coffee is not only a morning thing either. Sometimes it shows up right in the middle of a hard day.
Yes. Those cups feel different.
They really do. Because some coffee is just coffee, but some coffee arrives when you are tired, stressed, disappointed, overwhelmed, or emotionally flat.
And somehow that one cup can feel like a pick-me-up.
I like that phrase because it sounds small, and that is why it feels real. Not, my whole life changed. Just, this lifted me a little.
Yes, a little lift is sometimes enough. Enough to answer the email, enough to finish the task, enough to stop feeling annoyed at everyone for no reason.
Or for many reasons.
Fair.
I remember one afternoon when I was mentally done. Not tired in the sleepy way, more like emotionally tired. Too much noise in my head, too many things open at once.
That kind of tiredness is heavy.
Yes. And I made coffee, sat near the window, and just stared outside for 10 minutes. I did nothing useful, but after that, I felt slightly more able to continue.
And that is exactly it. Coffee does not solve the day, it just makes the day feel a little less sharp.
A little less sharp. That is beautiful.
Some of the best things in life are not big solutions, they're small softeners.
Wow, Anna, that's such a real point.
Thank you, thank you. But honestly, there is also a very funny side to all of this.
Oh, absolutely.
People love saying, no, I just like coffee. Do you? Or are you emotionally attached to a bean?
Wow, that is brutal.
But tell me I am wrong.
I mean, you are not wrong.
Have you ever seriously tried to cut back on coffee?
Yes, a beautiful idea, very peaceful in theory.
Exactly. Even the phrase sounds calm, doesn't it? Cut back on coffee. So simple, so mature, so unrealistic.
Yes, and then day 2 comes and suddenly you're looking at your coffee maker like, please don't make me do this.
That is so real.
No, but honestly, people underestimate that part. It can feel weirdly emotional because when you try to drink less coffee, you are not only giving up caffeine.
Right, you're interrupting a routine.
Exactly. A routine, a comfort, a familiar mood, sometimes even a little part of your identity.
Yes, that is why it can feel strangely personal. It sounds small, but it does not feel small.
And wow, people become dramatic without it.
Oh, incredibly dramatic.
We all know a person like that.
We do.
The one who keeps saying, no, I'm fine, while blinking slowly and talking like every sentence is taking their last bit of strength.
Stop, that is too accurate.
You know I'm right.
You are, and honestly, that is part of why this topic is so lovable. It's funny, a little emotional, and just painfully real.
And then there's the coffee shop side of all this.
Yes.
Because coffee at home is one feeling, but coffee in a cafe is a whole different world.
It really is. A good coffee shop can feel like a tiny, safe world inside a noisy day.
I love that.
The music is low, cups are clinking, people are talking but softly. Someone is reading, someone is pretending to work. Someone is absolutely having a life crisis next to a pastry.
That last one felt very specific.
Because cafes hold all kinds of people.
They really do, and sometimes the whole atmosphere just hits the spot.
Yes, that phrase is perfect here. When something hits the spot, it feels exactly right in that moment. Like your mood says, yes, this is what I needed.
And sometimes it's not even the coffee itself, it's the window seat, the rain outside, the quiet noise, the feeling that nobody is asking anything from you for 20 minutes.
Yes, a coffee shop can be one of the few places where you are allowed to be quiet, tired, thoughtful, or a little lost, and nobody asks you to explain it.
Wow, that is so true.
You can sit there alone and still feel held by life somehow.
Alone but not isolated.
Exactly.
Also, the dreams people bring into coffee shops are very ambitious.
What do you mean?
You walk in thinking, today I will become organized, answer emails, reflect deeply, maybe even change my life.
And then?
Then I drink half the coffee, look out the window for 30 minutes, and decide I have had a meaningful day.
Honestly, that still counts.
It does. And maybe that is part of the magic too. Sometimes coffee is not really about productivity at all.
Yes. Sometimes it is just about how a moment feels.
Exactly. The drink matters, of course, but the feeling around it matters even more.
You know, I think this is where the real answer lives.
Hmm?
Maybe people do love coffee, yes, but maybe what they really love is the feeling coffee gives them.
Yes, the warmth, the pause, the familiarity, the comfort, the tiny lift, the little permission to stop.
And the memories, too. Coffee can feel very nostalgic sometimes.
Yes. One smell and suddenly you are back somewhere else.
Childhood mornings, parents in the kitchen, late night studying, your first office job, a certain cafe, a certain person.
That is true.
And sometimes it feels sentimental too, not just memory, but memory with emotion still wrapped around it.
Yes, like it still means something inside you.
Exactly. And that's why coffee can feel bigger than coffee. It carries routine, emotion, memory, comfort, connection, all in one simple little cup.
That is beautiful.
I think some of the most loved things in life are like that. Small on the outside, quiet, ordinary, but full of feeling once you really look at them.
Yes, and coffee is one of them.
So maybe it was never just about the drink.
Maybe it was always about the moment wrapped around it.
The routine, the comforting pause, the pick-me-up, the safe cafe, the familiar smell, the memory.
And that first sip when life feels loud, and for one tiny second, everything settles.
Yes, that.
And I think that is why this topic gave us so many lovely words today.
Yes. Because coffee is such a small, everyday thing, but the feelings around it are actually rich and very human.
Exactly. So before we end, let's slow down for a moment and take a little word tour through some of the words and phrases we used in today's conversation.
Yes, and these are not only coffee words. They are beautiful, everyday English words, too. Words for comfort, routine, memory, and those small moments that stay with us.
So let's begin with a word that fits this episode perfectly: ritual.
A ritual is something you do regularly in a meaningful or personal way, not just because you have to, but because it gives shape and feeling to a moment.
For example, making coffee every morning became a quiet ritual she looked forward to.
Or, his evening walk is a small ritual that helps him slow down after work.
Repeat, ritual.
Ritual. Next, a very gentle word from this episode: comforting.
If something is comforting, it makes you feel calmer, safer, or more at ease.
For example, the smell of coffee in the kitchen felt deeply comforting.
Or, there was something comforting about sitting by the window with a warm drink. Repeat, comforting.
Comforting.
Now, another emotional word: sentimental.
If something feels sentimental, it carries personal emotion or memory. It matters to you in a deep emotional way.
For example, that old cafe still feels sentimental to her because she used to go there with her father.
Or, he kept the mug for sentimental reasons, even though it was chipped.
Repeat, sentimental.
Sentimental. Next is a really useful word: familiarity.
Familiarity is the feeling of knowing something well, so it feels known, trusted, and comfortable.
For example, there was a sense of familiarity in her morning routine.
Or, the familiarity of that cafe made him feel relaxed right away. Repeat, familiarity.
Familiarity.
Next, a soft and calming word: soothing.
If something is soothing, it helps you feel calm, settled, or less stressed.
For example, the sound of the coffee machine was strangely soothing.
Or, she found the quiet cafe atmosphere soothing after a stressful day.
Repeat, soothing.
Soothing. Next, one of my favorite words from this episode: nostalgic.
Nostalgic describes that warm emotional feeling you get when something reminds you of the past.
For example, the smell of coffee made him feel nostalgic for childhood mornings.
Or, that rainy afternoon in the cafe gave her a nostalgic feeling. Repeat, nostalgic.
Nostalgic.
Now let's look at a more serious word: dependence.
Dependence means relying on something so much that you really feel its absence when it is not there.
For example, his dependence on coffee became obvious when he skipped it and got a headache.
Or, a small dependence can start as a habit and grow over time.
Repeat, dependence.
Dependence. Now let's move to a phrasal verb we used: kick in.
When something kicks in, its effect starts to happen or become noticeable.
For example, the caffeine usually kicks in about 20 minutes later.
Or, once the medicine kicked in, he felt much better. Repeat, kick in.
Kick in. Next, another useful phrasal verb, cut back on.
To cut back on something means to reduce it, to have less of it than before.
For example, she is trying to cut back on coffee in the evenings.
Or he decided to cut back on sugar after feeling tired all the time. Repeat, cut back on.
Cut back on. Next, a lovely everyday phrase, a pick-me-up.
A pick-me-up is something small that gives you more energy, improves your mood, or helps you feel a little better.
For example, that afternoon coffee was exactly the pick-me-up I needed.
Or a short walk in the fresh air can be a great pick-me-up. Repeat, a pick-me-up.
A pick-me-up.
And finally, a phrase that feels perfect for coffee, hit the spot.
If something hits the spot, it feels exactly right for that moment. It gives you exactly what you needed.
For example, that warm coffee really hit the spot on a cold morning.
Or, after a long day, a quiet cafe and a soft drink just hit the spot.
Repeat, hit the spot.
Hit the spot.
Those were such lovely words today.
They really were, and I think that is because coffee is one of those small daily things that quietly carries so much feeling.
Yes, comfort, routine, memory, mood, and sometimes just a little help getting through the day.
So as you go through your week, maybe notice your own little rituals, the familiar things that bring calm, comfort, or a moment to breathe.
And if coffee is one of those things for you, we completely understand.
We really do.
And if you enjoyed spending this little coffee moment with us, don't forget to like the episode, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who would absolutely agree that coffee is never just coffee.
And tell us in the comments, what does coffee mean to you? Is it comfort, energy, routine, memory, or just your favorite excuse to sit quietly for a while?
Honestly, all very valid answers.
All right, take care of yourselves this week, and we hope you find a few small, comforting moments in your days. This is Anna.
And this is Jake.
And you have been listening to the English Leap podcast. Bye!
Your progress doesn't end here. To continue advancing your English skills, click on the next video or explore the additional videos we've thoughtfully selected for you.